We now come to Shadow Secretary of State Ian Murray.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm sure the Secretary of State would like to join me in welcoming Dr Riches, who's watching our proceedings today. She's shadowing me from the Royal Society in the pairing scheme, and she's very welcome. Mr Speaker, Holyrood unanimously approved the legislative consent motion for the Economic Crime Bill that included an amendment from my Labour colleague Michael O'Mara urging the UK Government to remove a provision that would only require ownership of land in Scotland to be registered from 2014 when it's 2004 in England. So if you've laundered Putin's dirty money in Scotland before 2014, you're in the clear. For example, Perthshire's Aberukal Castle, bought by Russian steel magnate Vladimir Lysin for over £5 million in 2005, who is on the Treasury's watch list since 2008, is not covered. Vladimir Romanov, who bought Heart of Midlothian Football Club in 2005 and swathes of central Edinburgh, and allegedly hiding in Moscow under the protection of Putin, would not have been covered either. But they would in England. So does the Secretary of State think that is right? And what is he doing to implement the LCM amendment to sort the smugglers' cove in Scotland?
Secretary of State.
Well, Mr Speaker, first of all, I'd like to join him in welcoming the Royal Society pairs who are in London. I'd also like to thank the Honourable Member's party for the support they've given for the Economic Crime Bill. It's hugely appreciated. As regards the registration of property, it's actually England and Wales changed the rules in 1999. In Scotland, they were changed for the transparency of ownership in 2014. The problem we have with the bill is if we go back before 2014, there is a risk that third parties who didn't know they were engaging with an overseas entity that was non-compliant could be hurt, or could be, and that hurt is something they unwillingly were engaged in, and therefore we have to protect those third parties. So that's the reason we haven't gone back before 2014. And the Joint Committee that reviewed the draft legislation did agree with that point. But I absolutely have every sympathy with the points that he makes.
Ian Murray.
I'm sure that anomaly could be sorted, Mr Speaker, in terms of making sure you don't hurt unsuspecting third parties. One of the most important ways to clamp down on illicit Russian money, of course, and influence in the UK is through the reform of Companies House. Despite Labour's attempts, the Economic Crime Bill does not contain such reforms. It's important because Scottish limited partnerships that were set up for Scottish farmers in the 19th century remain an outdated and opaque vehicle of ownership which are being used in the 21st century to obscure beneficial ownership. There is widespread support for this change, yet the Government refused to act. So will the Secretary of State commit now to reforming Scottish limited partnerships and wider company law so we can see who actually owns these companies and shut down these laundering loopholes?
Secretary of State.
Yes, well, the honourable gentleman also know that the UK Government did clamp down on the abuse of Scottish limited partnerships in 2018, but we do want to do more, and in the next session of Parliament, early in the next session of Parliament, there will be an updated economic crime bill, and there will be further measures being taken, because he's absolutely right. Those were being used by foreign individuals and foreign companies to launder money. We know that. The reforms in 2018, they increased transparency, and they put more stringent checks on the individuals who were forming those companies. But yes, hopefully with the support from the Labour Party, we will tackle this in the next session of Parliament.